What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into a live Broncos breakdown. Free agency is no longer around the corner. I am declaring it. I am announcing it. It is here because the rumors are all over the place. Welcome into our live show today. We're going to break down the latest news and rumors. Denver even signed a wide receiver today with an all-time name. We'll jump into that later on. Plus, I've got some free agent targets for the Broncos going into free agency. And then we wrap up the show with a mailbag, an opportunity for everyone watching right now to be a part of the show. Get on screen, ask your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. Now, while we let everyone click onto the notification and join the show, I want to get everyone watching right now interacting in the chat with your city. Shout out your city. Let me know where you are tuning in from today. Everyone that chimes in the chat with a city, town, or wherever will give you a shout out. So drop those cities down below as we let the audience build up on today's show. We've got Eric Brown in the chat, Garrett Ringy. Garrett's always at the show. I love it. David's here. We got Tom Zavely tuning in from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Garrett's in Colorado. He's in Lakewood. We got Jackson in Utah. Carlos down in Panama. Jamie's in Atlanta. Sean's in Thornton. Tyrone's in Des Moines, Iowa. David tuning in from Florida. Keep those cities coming in the chat right now. 85 people watching, 85 plus strong. Hit that thumbs up icon too if you haven't already. Now, maybe a reason why you clicked onto today's live show is about this big story that dropped from Matthew Berry at NBC Sports, who said that Russell Wilson may very well be gone after 2023. This could be a one-year prove-it audition type of situation for Russell Wilson under Sean Payton. So predict it for me. Will Russ be out of Denver after 2023? Is it going to be 2 short seasons after he was traded from Seattle and then received a 5-year contract extension? Will it only be 2 years? Predict it, yes or no. I know it's tough right now because so much of it depends on how Russell Wilson plays in 2023. But at this moment, if you had to predict it, will Russell Wilson be taking the field week 1 in 2024? Or will Sean Payton eat a lot of dead cap money and move on from Russ after 1 year? Alessandro says no. Florida golf divers watching from Saudi Arabia, not your usual Florida home. Paul's in Parker. Noel says no. Got some no's coming in. Juan's coming in from Barcelona. I love it. Deezy's thinks no. I don't think so either. The dead cap hit, it's just too big. I think Sean Payton, he knew what he was getting into. So he's a smart guy. I'm guessing he didn't take this job without an understanding of, hey, if Russ is bad again, how long am I tied to him for? And they probably gave him a good answer. So there should be some truth to Sean Payton maybe believing. Again, it's all rumors. It's all reports. He did not come out and say anything. It's just Matthew Berry coming from sources at the Combine, which the Combine is a cesspool, but has some good validity rumors to it. Like, I don't know, Russell Wilson getting traded to the Broncos last year. The deal, the terms of compensation was agreed upon between Schneider and Payton at the Combine just a couple weeks beforehand. So there are some really big, true rumors that do come out of the Combine, but not everything. So while you're getting in the chat right now, we got over 100 people watching right now. Let's go, Broncos. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. We're at 25 likes. We can't start the show until we get to 50, so help me reach that. Hit that thumbs up button. So with that being said, though, free agency is here. It is upon us, essentially. The Denver Broncos have already gone out and signed a player today, Lil Jordan Humphrey. But who do you want the Broncos to sign? They did not franchise tag Draymond Jones. So I am sure Denver is going to do their best. Well, maybe not their best. I think they're going to make a good effort to bring back Draymond Jones. But at the end of the day, George Payton sunk a lot of money into a different free agent pass rusher last year. That was Randy Gregory. And so if another team wants to offer Draymond Jones in the neighborhood of $16 to $20 million a season, I don't see a way Denver gets it done. I just don't. I think the Broncos will make an offer. It'll probably be between 14 and 16. But if a team like the Chicago Bears come in with their $100+ million to spend and they outbid the Broncos, I don't think Denver's going to go fighting tooth and nail to keep Draymond Jones in Denver. Because if that was the case, probably would have franchise tagged him. Let's be honest. Tom H. has any solid right tackle. We're going to look at some right tackles today. Definitely got some ones to keep an eye on. Noel says Miles Sanders or a better offensive line. I mean, if you were going to sink $18 million into Draymond Jones, just pick up that money and drop it to right tackle position. Because that's a spot Denver has not had any sort of continuity for, we're going on 10 years at this point. It's crazy how long it's been since the Broncos have had a legit starting, year in, year out right tackle. They've had Bowles since 2017 on the left side, but that right side has just not been a spot that Denver's been able to figure out for a while. Tyrone says Mike McGlinchey. I would love Mike McGlinchey. Here's the issue. I'm not the only one that would love Mike McGlinchey. And I think there are some other teams that could offer a little bit more money. And if I'm Mike McGlinchey and you get 3 offers for the same amount, I don't know if Denver is the most attractive destination right now with picking a team that's got Russell Wilson at quarterback, but for how long? And then you could be entering quarterback purgatory. But Sean Payton is an excellent coach to play for, so that will definitely attract some free agents. Now, we got a mailbag coming up at the end of today's show. So if you got any questions you want to ask about free agency, trades, Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, whatever, just use hashtag Broncos. Or you can super chat. We haven't gotten a super chat yet today. Be the first one. If you like the free content and you want to show some extra love or support, the super chat function is awesome. It's like right around here. Yep. And it's got the heart with the $sign in the middle. Send some bucks our way. We'll guarantee you a spot on screen so everyone can see whatever your take or question is. But get those questions in early and often for our mailbag later on. Now, speaking of today's show, here's what we got on tap for everyone watching right now. The latest news and rumors, like I said, which is all over the place on both sides, plus some free agent targets. I think it's a good primer for the Broncos, who are going to have some money to spend. Not a ton, but they'll have some money to spend, and who could they spend it on? Plus, like we were just talking about, that live Q&A, hashtag Broncos, or super chat to guarantee a spot on screen. We are over 100 people watching, 37 likes. Can we get to 50? Can we get that thumbs up button clicked 13 more times, and we'll start the show. I'll give shout-outs to everyone who likes the video. Just spam me in the comment section. Garrett's talking about Derrick Henry. I just saw on Twitter right before we started the show that Derrick Henry was spotted on a flight to Denver International Airport. I got 2 thoughts. A lot of people change planes in Denver, so that could very well be the case, especially if he's coming from Nashville and he's going to like LA. Good chance he's either changing in DFW or Denver, or he's signing with the Broncos, right? I guess getting traded to the Broncos, but we're also joined by producer Patrick Seaman. Shame on me for not mentioning the exquisite producer Patrick Seaman.
You guys can see my face after this first segment.
Yeah. We'll let you kind of.
Video.
It's kind of like a podcast. You think you know the voice, the face behind the voice, and then you see it, and you're like, "Whoa, did not expect that."
It's gonna be an unreal review.
All right, 2 likes away from reaching 50 likes, and then we can start the show. Alpha Wolf says, hashtag sign Bud Dupree. If you really want to get on the show, you got to use hashtag Broncos. Otherwise, the software can't pull it. But Bud Dupree, I don't know. Isn't he just kind of a name at this point? I get it. Anytime a notable name gets cut, all other 31 teams' fan bases start foaming at the mouth of sign that guy. I know that guy. But Bud Dupree, just look at his stats when he was in Tennessee. Had some good years in Pittsburgh, but I'm probably going to pass on that one. We got 58 likes. All right, there we go. There we go, Broncos country. We ready to start the show, Patrick? All right, we got a lot to talk about on today's show, so buckle up and let's jump into a live Broncos breakdown. What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson with you all, breaking down the latest Broncos news and rumors as we head into free agency. And maybe the most prominent story at the moment is this. The Broncos did not franchise tag Draymond Jones. They will let him test free agency. I didn't expect them to put the $19+ million franchise tag on him. And I also didn't think he was deserving of that. I don't think he's a player who deserves $19 million. He's coming off a 6.5 sack season. Definitely an ascending guy, but them not franchise tagging him definitely gives me a sense of he might be on the way out, because if they really wanted to keep him, they would have franchise tagged him at least as a placeholder until they can figure out a longer contract extension. But the fact that they're letting him test the open waters, he's probably going to find more money elsewhere, and he's probably going to take it. So with that being said, we got more news to hit on. Field Yates tweeted out just before we started our live show that the Broncos have signed wide receiver Lil Jordan Humphrey. I mean, that is a first ballot NFL name right there. Lil Jordan Humphrey, he originally started his career coming out of Texas with the New Orleans Saints, so you can see the connection already. In his career, he has 18 grabs for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. He spent some time with the New England Patriots in 2022, and he joins this wide receiver room, which, I mean, I don't really know who wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 is going into 2023, if we can talk about that for a second. It's not Courtland Sutton at wide receiver 1, most likely. Probably Judy, then Patrick, then Sutton. But it's a wide receiver room that's filling out, that's got some good pieces. And if they're all playing well and they're all healthy, it's a wide receiver room I'm really comfortable with. But Lil Jordan Humphrey, for now, is going to be on the 90-man roster, so expect to see him when OTAs and stuff roll around, him trying to earn a spot on the 53-man roster. Now, let's jump into what I originally planned for today's show. So coming up, is it a one-year prove-it audition situation for Russell Wilson? A new report says so. Also, we got some more Courtland Sutton trade buzz to hit on here, as the NFL Combine produces so many great juicy rumors, and we got more information on that front. Also, Denver reportedly quite interested in some running backs. I didn't think they would be as interested as they are, but that might signal some big concern for Javonte Williams going into 2023. But most importantly, free agency is here, and if you want the best Broncos free agency news and rumors, like signings of Lil Jordan Humphrey, well, you know where to subscribe. Hit that sub button and get the best Broncos coverage out there. Now let's jump into the Russell Wilson portion of the show. So, a source to Matthew Berry at the NFL Combine said, "I don't think Sean Payton likes Russell Wilson." Dun dun dun! Russell Wilson could be out after this season without a dramatic turnaround. At least that's what Matthew Berry was more or less getting at here. His 2024 dead cap hit is $85 million. Remember, that's next year. There's no way he's going anywhere this year. He is stuck, $100+ million dead cap hit. But next year's not that much better. It's $85 million. Now, let's see what Matthew Berry said in his write-up coming out of the Combine. More than one person mentioned to me that Russell Wilson is basically on a one-year audition. Said one source, "I don't think Payton likes Russ. He's got 1 year to prove himself or Payton will move on." Berry would go on to say, "This source pointed out that Payton has said multiple times in public on the record how Russell keeps bothering Drew Brees. Payton tries to play it off for a laugh, but my source doesn't think Payton actually think it's funny." And here we go. Get your popcorn ready, because it is rumors galore right now. Now, this is just coming from Matthew Berry. I can't say definitively whether it is true or not, but we know Russell Wilson on and off the field. And off the field, he works hard. I mean, when I was flying over to London last week, I never thought to do some high knees on my Delta flight, but Russell Wilson did. So Russell Wilson's going to do everything possible to get himself and his team in a good position to win, and that comes at a price of bothering Drew Brees, it sounds like. But the idea of Sean Payton moving on from Russ after 1 year, I don't think I can say shocks me, but it surprises me, because when Sean Payton took this job, I'm sure he took it with an understanding of, I want to know what I'm getting into. If Russ sucks again in 2023, how long am I stuck with him for? Did ownership say, we'll eat $85 million in dead cap and you just have 1 more year? And that was the only way Sean Payton would agree to come to Denver? I mean, look at the actual numbers behind it. If Russell Wilson is released before June 1st next year in 2024, The dead cap hit is $85 million. The cap savings that's not a typo, negative $49.6 million. Now, if they release them after June 1st, you get to split the dead cap hit over some time. The dead cap hit is $35.4 million for 2024. In 2025, it's $49.6. You even get some cap savings to go along with it. So you could wait till a post-June 1 in 2024 and not have it be an absolute sinking number for a franchise. But even then, $85 million is a lot of money to eat. So predict it for me. Will Russ be out of Denver after 2023? Is he entering his last year with the Broncos if things don't go swimmingly well? Yes or no? I personally just think that $85 million is too big for Denver to eat. I mean, when you look at Wilson's dead cap hit over the rest of his contract, there's why you can't move on from him this year. $107 million. I still think 85 is too high for Denver to stomach. Now, in 2025, that's 2+ seasons away. 49.6, that's no problem, especially with how big the cap will be at that point. It's in the mid $200 million right now. It'll be over $300 million by then. That you could manage. Still not great. And then afterwards, it's really whenever you want to do it, if he's still around at that point, because he didn't pick up his quarterback play, but hopefully he does. Now, if we go fast forward to 2025, so that's 2 years from now, the 2025 dead cap hit, if you release them after June 1st, is just $18 million. You get to split some of it over 2026, 31.2, and you get some cap savings of $37 million. So that is a much more likely route, I think, if I'm Sean Payton and I'm wondering, hey, if Russ sucks next year, what's the soonest I could get out of this contract? I think it would have to be a post-June 1st designation cut in 2025. I just don't see Denver eating $85 million. Even if it's a one-year audition, $85 million is a ton of money. How much? It's about double the NFL dead cap record set by Matt Ryan and the Falcons at $40.5 million. It's double and then some. Are the Broncos really that desperate? I mean, Russ's play in 2023 will be the largest factor and indicator of what his future holds. But even if it's similar to this year, 85, I think is just too high of a number for the Broncos to eat. All right, let's switch gears and talk about Courtland Sutton now. So speaking of Matthew Berry, he also reported from the Combine that the Broncos are quietly shopping Sutton. Now, Sutton has not eclipsed 1,000 yards in 3 straight seasons, one of them being when he tore his ACL, but 2 straight years of pretty underwhelming play for a guy who just got a contract extension. His base salary, by the way, this season, $14 million. That's a big chunk of change for someone who is not playing like a $14 million receiver. Here's what Berry said. As long as we're talking Denver, I'm told the Broncos are quietly shopping Courtland Sutton. Not actively pushing him, but definitely trying to see if there's a trade market for him, and if they get a decent offer, would move him. So here are some Courtland Sutton stats and figures I want to show you guys. Remember, he got a contract extension in November 2021. Before that extension, you see why he got it. 2,499 yards and 12 touchdowns in 43 games. I mean, he was an awesome receiver for this team. Since the extension, he's played in 22 games and has scored twice. I mean, it simply could not be stated even more than he, after the extension, got the money and ran. I mean, he's not that type of player, but his play has played like that, right? He has not lived up to the extension. I'm at the point now, if someone offers the Broncos a 3rd-round pick, I'm taking the deal on the spot. Broncos get 3 third-round picks in the draft when they don't have a first and they don't have a second for a receiver who scored 2 touchdowns in the last 22 games. Sign me up. Tell me where to sign. I'm in. I mean, if it's a second, no doubt about it. Don't even give him a chance to second guess it. But even a 3rd-rounder, if it's a really high, if it's like a conditional 3rd-round pick, then I might be, tossing and turning a little bit more. But if it's a lower 3rd-round pick, yeah, ask me where to sign and what color ink you wanted it. Now, let me know what you think about this. Would you trade Sutton for a 3rd-round pick? Type T for trade or P for pass. Get your votes in down in the comment section. The next segment on today's show, are the Broncos interested in some running backs? So the Broncos are reportedly interested in Kareem Hunt and David Montgomery. We'll take a look at these two backs in just a second, but St. Patrick's Day is not around the corner. It is just over a week away, and you don't want to be the only guy or girl at your St. Patrick's party not wearing green. So get this awesome Broncos St. Patty's Day shirt. It's pretty good price if you ask me. When you go to chatsports.com/Broncos Green, I've put that link for everyone in the comments and the description of today's show. Going back to Matthew Berry, because he was just the fountain of Broncos rumors coming out of the Combine, here's what he said. The most fascinating nugget about Denver, and possibly of the whole Combine, was about Javonte Williams' health, and I'm told there is a very wide range of possibilities regarding his return. There is a chance he is healthy to start the year. There is a chance he misses multiple games. And there is actually a chance he misses all of next year. I was told he is currently a lot more hurt than the team is letting on publicly, and that the Broncos are secretly nervous. Don't be surprised if the Broncos wind up with Kareem Hunt when all is said and done. I think the Broncos are probably planning to not have Javonte Williams in 2023, right? And if you do get him, that's just extra money from the house. But he suffered a major knee injury in October, similar to what happened to J.K. Dobbins in August when he suffered his injury, and he wasn't ready till really about October, and he had to get second surgery after that. So if the Broncos go out and sign a bigger name running back and not just roll with like Latavius Murray and a rookie, to me that's going to send a lot of red flags up of they don't think Williams is going to play much or even at all in 2023, right? I mean, if he's not even healthy until double-digit weeks, and who knows what's going on with the Broncos at that point, they might just shut him down for the rest of the season. Kareem Hunt will flash his stats on screen for a moment. He was not that productive for Cleveland last year, just 468 rushing yards. He's always been a good receiving back, but just 210 through the air. Now, David Montgomery is another name to keep an eye on, as he could be plan B if Denver can't get Hunt, according to Barry. I got news for you, Matthew. No one else is going to be barking up the Kareem Hunt tree. You saw those stats yourselves. If you want Kareem Hunt, you can get him, right? I don't think there's going to be a lot of competitive offers coming for Hunt. So if he's really their number one guy, you might as well start asking him where he wants to live in the Denver area, because there's not going to be a big competition for signing Kareem Hunt. Now, when it comes to Montgomery, if they decide to go a different direction and just get a better running back altogether, I think Monty for the Chicago Bears the last 4 seasons, came out strong, had some great first few seasons, 889 rushing yards, over 1,000 in his second year. But the last 2 seasons really haven't seen the growth the Bears probably wanted to see. He's also been a good player coming out of the receiving end of things, right? 213 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns altogether. So if you had to pick a running back between these two guys, who would it be? I'm guessing Kareem Hunt probably cost you $5 million. I think Montgomery could cost you around $10 million. So do you want to spend the extra $10 or $5 million for Monty? Let me know. Type the number of the jersey you'd rather see in Denver next season. I think an extra $5 million for Montgomery is probably worth it, especially with the way that Kareem Hunt played last season. So I'd roll with Monty at $10 million. Maybe he gets a little bit more, and that could change things, but for now, I'll keep it there. All right, let's see what everyone's saying here. We got a mixed bag of answers. Some 32, some 27s. Room seems pretty split right now. Seeps, do you want to chime in? Would you rather go with Kareem Hunt for $5 million or David Montgomery for $10 million?
I'd probably lean Montgomery.
I think Monty's worth the extra.
I'm a fan of Montgomery either way.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the way he runs the football. He runs hard. I mean, I like those guys that are 5'11", really compact. He's a burner, but he can also, he lays the boom a little bit.
I also just think that if you're the Broncos, the way that your offense played last year and the way Russell Wilson played, don't you think you'll be setting yourself up for failure if you address the offense by signing a $5 million running back? Right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're probably going to need to be pretty reliant on the ground game. What are we going to do about that? let's go pay $5 million to a back.
Yeah.
Like, if you could get Monty for $10 million, which I'm not a fan of paying running backs big second contracts, but I don't think $10 million's all that egregious. And I saw James Conner go from the Steelers to the Cardinals and play on an 8 or 9. No, I think he played on a $7 million contract.
7.9.
I think he was like a 3-year, 20-ish, $21 million deal. And he's been awesome for them.
I wouldn't mind that for Monty.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Deal,
yeah.
That would be sweet.
He's probably going to look for more, but 2 straight seasons, south of 1,000-yard rushing, miss some time here and there. I think if you can get Monty for $10 million, you say yes and you don't ask questions, especially if Denver secretly believes that Williams is not going to be ready for the start of the season and he's coming off a major injury, right? If they just decide, hey, you're already going to miss so much of 2023, did we not learn our lesson a little bit from KJ Hamler, where we activated him week 1 for Seattle and then quickly realized he's not even close to ready? So if it takes him an extra 4 or 5 weeks and you're already like week 13, it's like, well, what's the point of tossing him out there if he can't even go 100% and he's ending up just going to need a second surgery like J.K. Dobbins potentially? So let's see what the comment section are saying right now. Alpha Wolf, Hunt was a backup. That's fair. He was a number 2 behind Nick Chubb, but he got a good volume of usage. And if you watched him play last year, he never really gained much. He never really produced much, I guess you could say. He never provided much of a spark. That's what I'm really looking for here. He never really brought that that big play energy to anytime he touched the ball. Alessandro Murray. God, Latavius Murray stole all of Broncos country's hearts last year, but he is secretly not that secretly old. He's 33. Do you want to run it back with him? And in week 3, you realize, oh, he was good for just half a season last year. Signing him up for a full 17-game workload might be a bit ahead of his skis here. Yeah, Jacobs got tagged by the Raiders, and they're not going to tag and trade him to the Broncos of all places, so that's not going to happen. You can't trade Kareem Jackson. He's a free agent. I'm a big believer in Caden Stearns, by the way. I mean, Justin Simmons and Caden Stearns, that's an awesome safety room right there. All right, we've got over 200 people watching, just 78 likes. Let's get to 100 likes. If you haven't liked the video already, please go ahead and do so. All that's going to do is it's going to tell YouTube to push this live show to more Broncos fans out there so we can grow this channel, and in return, you guys get more Broncos content. So I think it's a pretty good win-win all around. Marlon Mack. Do you guys remember when Marlon Mack had that huge screen? I think it was a screenplay against the Chiefs. And I think every single person watching the game was like, who is that again? It was like, oh, that's Marlon Mack. Hadn't seen him touch the field once. I think he was number 37. Not a usual running back number. And you're like, I don't know. It's like, oh, it's Marlon Mack. I kind of forgot we got him. And he flew private to London to meet the team. It was very bizarre. But Marlon Mack, maybe as a running back 3, I don't think you should count on him as your RB1 going into the season.
He could be a good back just to fill in for a game.
Yeah.
If somebody got hurt.
Agreed.
But besides that,
I don't think so. Probably not. Okay, we got some free agency targets to get to next on the show. We're 4 likes away from 100 likes. Once we reach 100, we will start the next segment of the show. By the way, quick reminder, we do got a mailbag coming up in about 20 or so minutes. So use hashtag Broncos or Super Chat. Haven't gotten a Super Chat yet today. If you want to be the first one to support our live program here, you want to show some extra love and put a little dollar in the tip jar, Super Chats definitely go a long way to keep the ship afloat. So greatly appreciate all of you guys. But if not, liking the video goes a long way as well. All right. We got over 100 likes. We are ready to start the next segment of the show. Patrick, get the green light. Let's jump into it. Let's talk free agency. NFL free agency, Broncos fans, is here. And with that, we are going to talk about all the different Broncos free agent targets in just a moment. But first, make sure you're subscribed, because when the Broncos start signing a bunch of players, making some trades potentially, even cutting some guys, you don't want to miss a thing. You want to get the most instant and up-to-date news and rumors, which is why you have to be subscribed. So join nearly 13,000 strong here at the channel when you subscribe. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson, and on today's show, I've got the top free agent targets for Denver. I've really put together my list of guys. Now, before we show any names, keep in mind that free agency is very fluid. So if anyone you see on screen is already signed somewhere else or re-signed or anything like that, just move along to the next guy. Or if I say anything that becomes dated, just bear with me. But I think the first and most important place to start when it comes to free agency for Denver is the offensive line, specifically offensive tackle. So here are 5 guys. There's some more, but I'm kind of swinging for the fences on a few of these players. Mike McGlinchey from the 49ers, he's my number 1 guy. My issue is he's the number 1 guy for a lot of players, a lot of teams. So could that be an issue? Then there's Taylor Lewan, who I toss on there just as a quick PSA. I'm passing on him. He's missed so much football the last 3 years. I'm not interested in signing another injured tackle. Andre Dillard was a former first-round pick for the Eagles. He got buried on the depth chart. He could be a snake in the grass. You could get him for a little bit cheap and then find that first-round talent. Caleb McGarry was not exercised as a franchise tag player for the Falcons. He was one of the best tackles in all of football last year after a slow start to his career. And then there's Jawan Taylor, who I kind of want to zoom in on for a second, because Jawan Taylor has been, I wouldn't say necessarily rumored to the Denver Broncos, but he's gotten some noise, a little bit of chatter, right? Some dots being connected on a kid's menu at a breakfast spot. So he is expected to command around $17 to $18 million in free agency. The former second-round pick has not missed a start, and he has basically played every single snap with the exception of 1 or 2 last year in his entire 4-year career. If Denver cannot land Mike McGlinchey because he goes elsewhere where they can offer more money, could Jawan Taylor be a good backup option? Now, Taylor's PFF grades in 2022, not that good, honestly, right? You don't see ranking 65 out of 81 and think, boom, that's $18 million right there. But he did make a really good jump from year 3 to year 4. So for that reason, I could see him commanding a decent market in free agency. And I could see the Broncos picking up the phone and inquiring what the asking price is. At the end of the day, Denver needs to make a splash signing at offensive tackle. If we settle for a Cam Fleming or Billy Turner level signing, pitchforks and we're rioting, right? They need to really address this issue that I think was the biggest Achilles heel in 2023, outside, or 2022, outside of Nathaniel Hackett. So with that solid jump from year 3 to year 4, it's hard not to be excited about signing Taylor or a player at his level, because it just feels like at least you're improving from what you had last year. But let me know. Would you sign him? Yes or no? This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So if you get an ad break, take advantage of it. Get your votes in down below. Moving on to some other free agent targets, this time at the edge position. There's Draymond Jones, who potentially by the time you're watching this, things could have changed, but he was not franchise tagged by the Broncos. I think he's probably going to find more money elsewhere. I think his time at Mile High is over. Then there's Bud Dupree, Frank Clark, Arden Key, and Marcus Davenport. We'll look at this list in more detail in just a second, but first I got to share with you guys some awesome information about today's sponsor, Athletic Greens. Now, I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. You can get comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition at Athletic Greens, athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I personally recently gave AG1 a try because I hated taking pills or vitamins, and I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I take AG1 in the morning, and it makes me feel ready to take on my day. It really helps me with starting my day on the right foot and getting into a healthier lifestyle. I start the day with making one great choice, AG1, and more healthy decisions then follow. Covering my nutritional basis for the day also couldn't be easier, which is why I trust Athletic Greens. I just mix one small scoop of AG1 with water, drink it first thing in the morning, and it's done. I also like that it costs less than $3 a day. Pretty good if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality sourced ingredients, so win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. That's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Check it out. The link's in the comments and the description of today's show. It comes with awesome benefits like promoting gut health, supporting your immunity, and boosting energy. Patrick, can we actually go back to the 5 names to keep an eye on for? Because I kind of want to go in depth about some of these players here for just a quick second before we really focus on one individual. Bud Dupree was released by the Tennessee Titans in a cap-saving move, also because he's been somewhat underwhelming since coming over from Pittsburgh. Frank Clark, he was released by the Chiefs. If he comes over and promises to steal a playbook on the way out from Kansas City, yeah, I could be interested in that. I mean, we know how dominant he's been for the Chiefs, especially in the postseason. There's Arden Key from the Jags. He's an ascending name, definitely an eye to keep an eye on. And then there's Marcus Davenport. Let's zero in on Davenport for a moment. Why? Well, Sean Payton drafted him 14th overall in 2018. So I don't know if Payton will look at this as an opportunity to reunite with Davenport or as an opportunity to go, that was a bit of a mistake taking him first round in 2018. I'm not going to compound that mistake by bringing him to my next team. There's a bit of a hiccup with Davenport. It's that he's never played a full season in his 5-year career. He's always had some injuries nagging him. And could it be Randy Gregory 2.0, signing a guy who's never played a full season and then expecting him to do so in year 1? When you look at Davenport, his last couple of seasons, along with his career stats totaled at the bottom, we're talking about a guy who's coming off a half-sack season and 15 games played in 2022. To me, that doesn't really jump off the screen as that's a player you have to sign. I also feel pretty confident when I say Draymond Jones is not coming back to the Broncos. If they really wanted him back, I think they would have franchise tagged him to try and figure out a longer-term deal. And if he tests the open market, I think he's going to find more money elsewhere. So I don't expect Denver to really break the bank for Draymond Jones' replacement. Why? Because they kind of did that last offseason with Randy Gregory. So are they really going to sink their money into 2 big free agent contracts during the back-to-back off seasons for pass rushers? Probably not. One smaller name that's not going to cost you that much that I just want to throw out there is Dean Lowry. He has been with the Packers for his entire career so far, 6-7 years at this point. Now, he's not coming off a great statistical season, but he's sort of a grinder, right? He's a guy who goes into the corner of the boards and gets the puck out for you. He's a player that might not light up the stat sheet, but he's had some really good seasons with the Packers where he has put together 4 or 5 sack seasons. So Dean Lowry could be a lower key move to add another pass rusher without necessarily spending a lot of money in free agency. Let's move on to the next position group that appears to be an increasing spot of need, and that is running back. Names I've outlined here: David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, Devin Singletary, and Jamal Williams. We'll start breaking these guys down one by one, but the conversation really has to start with this player, Javonte Williams. Why are you signing a bigger name running back or a more expensive one if you expect Javonte Williams to return? That could be the clue, right? This could be the Broncos telling us that secretly they don't expect Javonte Williams to come back for much, potentially at all, in 2023. He's coming off a major knee injury, right? Look at how long it took Dobbins and Barkley to not just come back from it, but also look like their normal self from before the injury. So for that reason, and the way Russ played last year, they might want to lean on a ground game, and that might result in them investing into a pricier free agent running back. 2 names that have been rumored or really surfaced about would be David Montgomery and Kareem Hunt. Both guys were specifically named by Matthew Berry from his NFL Combine takeaways as players the Broncos are looking at. In 2022, neither player really jumped off the page, if you ask me. Kareem Hunt was an understudy to Nick Chubb, but even when he got the rock, he never really made much of it. And at times, Montgomery was more or less being outplayed by his backup, Khalil Herbert. If I really had to pick one between the two, I'd go with Montgomery as long as it's not going to cost more than $11 million a season. Another name to watch for is Jamal Williams. Now, I think the Lions are going to try and bring back Jamal Williams, but the guy had 17 touchdowns last year. I mean, that is an ultimate sports trivia right there of what backup running back, well, almost a starter with the Lions when Swift was down, had 17 touchdowns. So 1,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, like those are the numbers you expect to see out of the top 5 running backs in the NFL. If Denver can get him for $8 to $10 million a season as a one-year placeholder until Williams can return, and who's even to say that Williams is the future bell cow back of this franchise? Yeah, I'd be interested. Then there's Latavius Murray. Now, Murray stole, or captured, I should say, all of our hearts last year, right? The way he stepped into Denver and helped out an offense that was absolutely putrid. Yeah, I think a good chunk of Broncos country would like to see Murray come back. Maybe the Broncos entertain this idea strictly on a vet minimum deal. Sounds like Murray would be open to reuniting with his old head coach, Sean Payton. I just wonder if George Payton believes that Murray, the 30-plus-year-old running back, has any juice left in the tank. So here's what I want to know from everyone still watching right now. Should Denver sign a big-ish name running back, right? Should they go out and get a Miles Sanders or a David Montgomery or a Kareem Hunt? Or should they go maybe a little lower key, right, with a Latavius Murray and then just draft a running back in the 4th round and do kind of a committee backfield until they get Javonte Williams back? Let me know in the comment section below. Let's see what everyone's saying. We had over 228 people watching. That's what I'm talking about, folks. James is saying pass. I'm torn, right? I think the only way you can really answer this question entirely is if you know the status of Javonte Williams. But I think it's safe to assume, I think we should go under the assumption he's not going to play in 2023. Anything more than that is gravy. Because even if he does play a quarter of the games, you're telling me Javonte Williams, coming off a major knee injury in week 12 or 13, is going to be ready for 25 carries a game? No. He's going to be slowly worked back into the offense, and at that point, there's going to be 2 or 3 games left. So you definitely should prepare for someone else to be this team's starting running back for majority of next season. So with that in mind, with the way this offense struggled with letting Russ cook, I think Sean Payton's going to look long and hard at this free agent market for running backs and bring on a more reliable back and lean on a David Montgomery, for example, or a Miles Sanders. Michael says S. The King says S. Paul Cruz, Deuce Vaughn in the 4th. I love Deuce Vaughn. You know how tall he is, Patrick?
5'6"?
He's 5'6", which Kansas State is a factory for short running backs.
Sproles. Right,
Darren Sproles.
Yeah.
So there is that. If you just say Darren Sproles enough, you can talk yourself into it.
Yeah.
I like Deuce Vaughn a lot.
Little 3rd down back, take him in the 4th. I mean,
4th. I think if you're taking a running back in the 4th round, that's not a 3rd down back. Right?
Yeah, he needs to play a little more.
He needs to play a little bit more. Exactly. So if he's there in the 6th,
it's a fun pick.
If he's there in the 6th, sure, but then it's like, well, you're going to pick a different running back in the 4th? Are you going to pick 2 running backs with 5 picks, 40% of your assets to one position?
True.
That's tough. I don't know, Jim. I don't know. Mario says, sign Murray, get a rookie, use all the cap on offensive line and defensive line. I mean, ultimately, teams usually don't win Super Bowls with expensive running backs anyway.
No, you don't.
But, man, it feels like if the Broncos are going to be successful in 2023, it's going to be because they got some playmakers helping out on offense, and rolling with Latavius Murray and a rookie could be a recipe for underwhelming play, if we're being honest here. All right, we do got a mailbag coming up next, by the way, so use hashtag Broncos. You got to use hashtag Broncos. If you misspell it, the software can't pull any questions. You can't get it on screen. So help producer Patrick out. Use hashtag Broncos or Super Chat. We're still waiting for our first Super Chat of the show, so if you want to be the first one to show some TLC to us here, would be greatly appreciated. Plus, it guarantees you a spot on screen. So any questions you've got, Super Chat, you get to skip the line. It's like a fast pass which, by the way, Disney, they killed Fast Pass. The Genie thing, I haven't gone since. But if you have, let me know how bad it is. I'm not interested. Shaylin wants to know, how was London? London was awesome, right? In a word. What's your one-word reaction? It was, I just came back from London with my lovely girlfriend, Shaylin. Spam Shaylin in the chat. And it was a perfect trip. It really was. I have spent a lot of my life making fun of British cuisine, which my stance on it doesn't change. But there were some great restaurants in London for other cuisines.
Okay.
Right? I don't think anyone's ever gone out with some friends and like, what are you feeling tonight? Chinese, Italian? Feeling some British pub food.
I don't think anybody.
No one's ever said that. I don't think British people even say that.
No.
But we had a great time, no doubt about it. If you've ever been to London, let me know in the chat. Florida Golf Diver, have you ever heard anything on the alternate helmet for next season? Yes. I believe that's in the works. It's hard to remember because I feel like with so many like the uniform stuff now, it's hard to remember what is just people pitching ideas of this would be awesome versus this is happening. You know what I mean? Okay, so with that being said, do we have enough questions, Mr. Seatman? Get some more questions in. Hashtag Broncos or Super Chat. Be the first Super Chatter today. Guarantee your question gets on screen. So with that being said, I think we're ready to... Moses, any word on Hendon Hooker? You got to use hashtag Broncos in your chat for our software to pull it. But Hendon Hooker, I mean, one, he went to the most prestigious university in all of the Southland. And I think he would be a fun pick to sit behind Russell Wilson for a year. If Sean Payton really believes he wants to move on from Russ after 1 year, you could start grooming the next quarterback. Let him sit for a season. He's a bit old. He's good. He's 25. He'll be 26 next January. So Hendon Hooker really did start in year 2. 26-year-old, rookie quarterback. It's dangerously close to Brandon Weeden. You're in Brandon Weeden waters. You never want to be in Brandon Weeden waters. You don't want to be in Brandon Weeder's waters. Well, that's not weird. Brandon Weeden waters. Okay. I think we're ready to jump into our live mailbag now. Seeps, you ready on the ones and twos? All right, green light. Let's jump into it. Welcome into a live Broncos mailbag. Today's show was filmed during our live show, by the way, which was Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern. 4 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock Eastern. Regardless, if anything I say becomes a little bit dated because we know how fluid NFL offseason can be, just bear with me and move along to the next question more or less. But first question coming in from Noah72. Trade Courtland Sutton for Derrick Henry. Noah, you started the mailbag off with a juicy question. The Titans don't do this, right? Why would the Titans be interested in trading away their best player in franchise history for a more or less underwhelming receiver the last 2 years? Not saying no to trading Courtland Sutton away or even trading for Derrick Henry. I just don't think that's a deal the Titans would be interested in. I bet the Broncos would do it. I don't think Tennessee would. Moses next went up on the show with a third round. I wouldn't mind Hendon being 26 when he gets the first start. So basically, draft Hendon Hooker with a third round pick, and then he's 25 right now. He could sit for a year behind Russell Wilson and take over when he's 26. I'm a big fan of Hendon Hooker. We're talking about a player that was at one point, a Heisman favorite for a stretch up until his ACL injury. He's been making very solid strides on his ACL recovery, but the age factor is a bit of a concern. He's 25. If you sat him for a year behind Russell Wilson, he'd be 26 his first year, kind of like Mahomes did with Alex Smith. I think Hendon Hooker could be a phenomenal quarterback. The only thing that's given me slight hesitation, you only got 5 picks in the draft. If you think Hendon Hooker is that guy, then you go ahead and do it, right? You don't miss on a potential great quarterback if you think he's that. But if you just want to throw a dart at the board, I don't know if 20% of your ammunition for the draft should be used on lottery tickets of, well, we actually don't know if he's going to be that good, but we're just trying to find a quarterback, right? Jersey Boy, is it possible to trade Randy Gregory already? Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. Not really, right? One, let's look at what Randy Gregory did last season for Denver. He only played in 6 games, which I was more optimistic that he would play in more games. Not to be. He had a great start, right? Awesome start. Him and Bradley Chubb, the sacks, the forced fumbles, but then the injury, and then how long it took him to get back from the injury, and then he decides to come back and start a fight on Christmas Day against the Rams. Listen, if you trade Randy Gregory before June 1st, here's how the contract matter works out. The dead cap hit, it's only $8 million. Remember, he signed a 5-year, $70 million contract, but just $28 million was guaranteed. So more or less, it was like a 3-year, $28 million contract. Cap savings, $8.1 million. So Denver could save some good money right there with $8.1 million. But I'm guessing George Payton wants to stick by his free agent signing and give it one more year at least. Maybe next year we're having a much more serious conversation about this. Now, what's your confidence level on Randy Gregory bouncing back? Scale it 1 to 10. 10 being you are Randy Gregory watching right now, and you know that you will be a Pro Bowl edge rusher. 1 being it's going to be worse, if not the same, as last year. Put me at a 5.2 so I can be the morale leader here. Try to just talk it into existence. But I've got my concerns, no doubt about it, probably like all of you do as well. Tyrone, what's up? Signed Jamel Dean, the Tampa Bay Bucks cornerback. Man, I mean, you got Patrick Surtain. Do you really need to spend big at your other outside corner position? Like, it's important to have 2 good corners, especially in a pass-happy league, especially in a division where you play Mahomes and Herbert 4 times. But I don't think spending more on your other corner than Patrick Surtain is the best way to spend money. I get it. It's important to have 2 corners. But I think Jamel Dean might be a bit of an overpay. Now, if you can get him for cheaper, that's a separate conversation. But Jamel Dean's going to look for CB1 kind of money. You got to spend CB1 money on Surtain, right? And then spend CB2 money on someone else so that you don't overpay at 2 great corners, because the Broncos have had good corners the last 2 seasons. Hasn't translated to wins necessarily. What's going on, Garrett? Good to see you here. Getting a QB to back up Russ like Mayfield or someone. I have heard some chatter from The Athletic that the Broncos and 49ers are 2 teams to keep an eye on for Baker Mayfield. Baker's probably going to get like $8 to $10 million on a 1-year backup QB role. Not opposed to Baker being the backup for the Broncos, right? Him or Jameis Winston, you got to admit, if/when their number is called, it would be pretty fun. It'd be a lot more fun than Case Keenum. So if we're going to have some fun next year, let's have some fun with Baker, who torched Denver on Christmas Day. But I'm honestly just not a big Baker guy to begin with. I think we saw that last year in Carolina. And outside of a great 98-yard drive against the Raiders with the Rams as well, I'd rather roll with the 30-for-30 man, Jameis Winston. But appreciate your question, Garrett. Now, NFL free agency is basically here. We're already getting some signings. We're getting loads of rumors. So don't miss a thing. Subscribe to the channel. That way, when Broncos signings start happening, no matter what time, no matter what day, no matter where I am, we'll be getting a video out to you guys, breaking it down, offering up my analysis of the move. So subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're already subscribed, turn on your notifications. Hit that that bell icon. That way you get every single piece of news and rumors. Next question coming in from Florida Golf Diver. Have you heard anything on the alternate helmet for next season? I have not. I'm trying to remember if that's actually a real thing or if that's just fandom ideas on Twitter, but I can't commit either way. Not opposed, though. I honestly would like to see the Broncos get new uniforms to begin with. Kyle MF Beck, sign Ndamukong Suh. No, Ndamukong Suh to the Broncos doesn't feel like a good fit, right? He went mid-season to the Eagles last year because they felt they were 1 piece away from winning a Super Bowl. Are the Broncos one 36-year-old defensive tackle away from doing anything? Probably not. The reason why I would pass on him is I'd rather allocate those snaps to other players who might have a future with this team. Not a guy who's going to be here for 1 season just hoping to win a ring, and that's fine if you're ring chasing. Is Denver ring chasing in 2023? Probably not. Now, we got more questions to field in just a second, but there's a great deal going on at Fanatics right now. You can get this awesome Broncos St. Patrick's Day t-shirt when you go to chatsports.com/Broncos Green. I've already put that link for you guys in the comments and the description of today's show, so rep your favorite team on St. Patty's Day by using this link. Alpha Wolf next up on the show. Frank Clark or Bud Dupree. If I had to pick one, I'm going to lean towards Frank Clark. I think Frank Clark has just been a better player the last 3 seasons. I don't think that's all hot of a take. And I'm going to hope that he comes over and he's like, do you guys want to know what Andy Reid's doing? We're like, yep, sit down and tell us, because we cannot figure out a way to stop him or Mahomes. But that's not really how it works anyway. But I would lean towards Frank Clark between these two players. Was it a great? I don't think I got that correct at all. Winston to back up Wilson? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. I would love this move for the Broncos. Sean Payton is definitely going to bring in a better backup than Brett Rippon, and he may very well go to a player who he signed in 2019, 2020, whatever it was, back in New Orleans, like Jameis Winston. Plus, be honest, if we need a backup to play at some point next year, tell me you wouldn't be excited about Jameis Winston coming off the bench. It's going to put butts in seats, right? He's going to do something fun. Whether it's a pick six or a touchdown, it'll be exciting. More than, sorry, Rippon, 230 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick at the end of the game against the Jets. John B. Rutledge? I saw an idea of the Broncos trading for Brandon Cooks. Thoughts? I saw the same thing. I think I know where you saw this from. ESPN did like one big move for all 32 teams, and for Denver, their big move was trading for Brandon Cooks, which last year he wasn't all that spectacular for the Texans, but he also had quarterbacks like Davis Mills and Kyle Allen throwing the ball to him. I don't think the Broncos, with 5 picks in the draft, are in a spot to give up one of those picks for a player like Cooks, who's a bit older in his career. And honestly, it's not like Denver is a 30-plus-year-old slot receiver away from doing a whole lot. I'm excited to get Tim Patrick back. I'm excited to see Jerry Jeudy take more steps forward. And I'm hopeful that if Courtland Sutton is on this team next year, he'll get back to that pre-extension type of play he had where he looked like a future wide receiver 1 for a team. So I would pass on trading for Brandon Cooks. But would you, right? Denver can't give up a first or a second for him. They could get a third. Would you trade a third-round pick for Brandon Cooks? Yes or no? I'm not. I'm keeping my third-round pick. If you want a slot receiver, take that third-rounder, draft a rookie receiver. It'll be cheaper. Sure, it might not be, a home run hit, right? It's a draft. It's a bit of a crapshoot. But I'll take my chances in the draft over an aging Brandon Cooks for a third. Derek Simpson, what's going on, my guy? Should the Broncos trade for Elijah Mitchell? Interesting idea. I just don't see a way Denver is making more trades and giving up more picks, right? If they are, it's going to be for a bigger name like Derrick Henry, which I don't think is all that realistic, like I mentioned at the start of the show. But if Elijah Mitchell can be got for a 7th rounder in 2025, yeah, if both sides are down for it, I don't think I'd be opposed to it, especially with Christian McCaffrey there, taking a lot of the workload away. So, not opposed to it, but I just don't see them getting it done because they don't have many bullets left in the chamber. Alessandro Rhymes, what single position group should we target in the draft first? It's a bit difficult to answer that without knowing how free agency goes, but I'll confidently say no matter who they sign in free agency, I think it's got to be offensive tackle, right? Let's say you sign a big name right tackle. Cool. You go out and you draft a tackle because good chance you could be moving on from Garrett Bowles in a little bit. So that could be a guy who sits in the wings and sort of like Quinn Miners in year 2, he steps into a bigger role. Plus, this offensive line has proven they can't stay healthy. So I will go with offensive tackle pretty much regardless of what happens in free agency. We got a super chat coming in from Kelter Cortez. What up, Kelter? Will Wilson continue as quarterback? Yes, Russell Wilson will be this team's quarterback in 2023. Will he start all 17 games? I'm not sure. But his dead cap hit is too big to move on from. It's over $100 million in 2023. It's $85 million in 2024. I think they're stuck with Russ for the next 2 seasons. I know there's talk of moving on after a 1-year audition. $85 million is just too big of a money to eat. So I think Wilson will be this team's quarterback for the next 2 seasons. I think Wilson will be on this team's roster the next 2 seasons. Last question coming in from Zavely. What is your dream free agent? Ooh, good question, Zayla. Good one to end on, excuse me. I preached about offensive line, and when I look at the offensive tackle free agents, Orlando Brown and Mike McGlinchey are really high up there. So I think those would be two guys to really keep an eye on. Those are definitely my dream free agents. Denver might get priced out a little bit. They've got some money to spend, but not a ton of money. So those would be my dream free agents if I could get a deal done. Bring me Mike McGlinchey from the 49ers right tackle spot to the Broncos side. McGlinchey would be my final answer. Thank you so much for tuning into today's mailbag. If you like this show, subscribe for more content from us here. We'll get you guys the latest Broncos free agency news and rumors all off-season, March, and into the draft long. So we got our first super chat. I love it, Cortez. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Should the Broncos sign a big-ish name running back? S for sign or P for pass? This is the question I'm floating out there right now. I think at least at offensive line, yes. George Payton, he learned his lesson last year. He went with Billy Turner. It was objectively a failure. And we could have saw it coming because he was released from the Packers with a failed physical. And Denver was hoping by the time September rolls around, he'll be good to go. And that wasn't the case. And who did they sign to back him up in case he wasn't ready? Tom Compton, who was more injured and missed more time. I really need to see them correct their issues from last year and make a splash signing at offensive tackle. Patrick, you want to chime in with some of your unbiased point of view on this?
I've always been anti-running back, just paying them. I'd always honestly, if you're just constructing a team, put all that money into the offensive line. Feed the big boys, because you can take a fourth-round running back. If you have a great offensive line, remember those Cowboys teams? Who was the running back? DeMarco Murray.
Yeah.
He was good, but a lot of that was just a great offensive line. So I'd always lean O-line.
Yep, I get that for sure. I mean, offensive guard has never been a position that the NFL values all that highly. You never see guards get a ton of money.
No.
It's usually because you can find a pretty good guard in the third to fifth round. I mean, a guard, you get to stick between a tackle and a center, so they don't get isolated all that much. Tackle is a whole different beast, right?
Yeah.
Quarterback, offensive tackle, and I would say edge are three cornerstone pieces.
And it's all around the quarterback.
Right.
The quarterback, protecting the quarterback, and
getting after the quarterback. And I wanted to toss in corner. Yeah. They're going to be there soon if it's not already.
See, I think wide receivers moving up there as
It is, but man, I feel like teams still view wide receivers as we can trade you and we'll draft one in the first round next year.
I say that, and then the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, getting rid of
exactly,
Tyreek Hill.
Right? I think it's those 3.5 positions: quarterback, offensive tackle, defensive end, cornerback, all designed around the QB.
The QB, yeah.
Yep, no doubt about it. We got over 139 people watching, 130 likes on the video. Thank you so much for hitting that thumbs up icon. If you haven't already, please go ahead and do so. We've been going on for an hour plus strong here. Patrick and I love talking shop and hanging out with you guys. There is a busy day here at Chat Sports with it being free agency and all. So the way it works, if you're not familiar with our live content at Chat Sports, is we do have to put the shot clock on. And what that means is if we get a super chat, we can hang out and keep talking with you guys and keep the show going. Otherwise, the studio space does get relinquished and we have to give it over to another channel. I know that Mitchell Renz and the Raiders Report, they're already doing their live, but I think Harrison and the Chiefs Report would be next in line for a studio.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep the Chiefs YouTube channel off to the side for a little bit longer, Super Chat keeps the show going. We'll talk about whatever it is. I mean, right now, we can just circle back to the idea of Russell Wilson being on a prove-it one-year deal. I just don't see Denver eating $85 million of dead cap hit.
I mean, that would be something.
It'd be double the NFL record and more. Now, I will say...
Would that be a full rebuild? Before I started to cut you off, but... would it have to be?
Yeah. I think if that happened, it would be we're cutting Russ, and at that point, wherever they are, we're trading away Justin Simmons or Jerry Jeudy because we won 5 games last year. It was a disaster. We're trading Courtland Sutton for sure, things like that. But I have to envision, though, Sean Payton took this job knowing the guardrails for Russell Wilson. Knowing, hey, I don't want to take this job if I have to be stuck with him and he continues to play poorly. So tell me, how long until I can move on from him if he sucks next year? And maybe they told him, we're committed to winning. We just bought, this is the ownership speaking, we just bought this team. We'll eat $85 million. If it means we can get a better quarterback on the field, we'll do it. So
could you imagine? Could you really imagine?
I think the more likely thing would be if they drafted a quarterback and then they kept Russ.
Just on the bench?
And they benched him.
Yeah.
Right?
I can see it.
And it's like, we're not going to release you. We're not going to eat that dead money. You'll back up this rookie.
Do you think?
And then maybe Russell Wilson then agrees to like a major contract restructure to get released to go play elsewhere.
Because do you think Sierra stays with a backup quarterback?
Oh, God.
No, seriously, Katie. Like, could you imagine her in the stands in a Russell Wilson jersey, and he's cheering on Hendon Hooker?
Yeah.
That'd
be tough. I think if that happened, one of Russell Wilson's 12 bathrooms would have to be reserved for the starter. You know what I mean? For sure.
He has his own toilet in his house.
Ideally, though, Russell's awesome next year. And all this is wiped away, right? But
does he have the most pressure on him as a starting quarterback going in the next season?
Wow, great question. I think so.
He has to be
right?
top 3.
I'm trying to think of other guys who have more pressure.
I mean, Dak, Kirk always have pressure.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking Russell Wilson might not be a starter again.
Deshaun Watson's going to have a lot of pressure. He got that big contract.
Yeah, he'll have some pressure on him.
But
I mean, if Russ is as bad as he was last year with Sean Payton, will he start again in the NFL? Because he's going to be, 34, 35.
This is pretty funny. Your tab actually says Russ will be on the team in 2024. I don't know if that's the error or that's potential. I don't know what he's talking about.
Your tab?
Yeah, I don't know what my tab is. Oh, well. Thanks, Kyle. With that being said, though, so we got to put the shot clock on. If we don't get another super chat in the next, we'll call it 2 minutes or so, timer's on right now, we will have to sign off and turn it over to the Chiefs report. If you got a super chat, if you got something you want to talk about during today's show, by all means, feel free to do so. We got over 150 people watching right now, so we'd love to stay live and keep chatting with you guys about what's going to be a really fun free agency and like calculated free agency, I think, for Denver, right? They're not going to have a ton of money to spend. They'll have some money to spend. They won't be like the New York Giants last year who had to release players because they had nothing. But I hope it is a free agency with one big offensive tackle signing, bring back Alex Singleton, find another cheap corner, and pray that your 2 third-round draft picks are day one starters.
Yeah.
That's really all you can hope for. Which, I mean, their second-round pick last year, Nick Bonito, he's not a starter. That might be a lot. I mean, it's only been 1 year, so it's early to say, but that's a scary pick already where they need Nick Bonito to step up and potentially replace a guy like Draymond Jones, and he definitely doesn't feel like he's in line to do so.
Did you see him going tight end, round 3?
No. You know, they like Dulcich. Greg Dulcich,
Dulcich.
He, missed the first 5 weeks of the season, but he was awesome in that debut against the Chargers.
Yeah.
And also Albert Okwuegbunam, when Hackett got fired, right? New head coach Jerry Rosburg comes in, and he unlocks Alberto, who was a healthy scratch for a good chunk of last season. So I think they have bigger fish to fry than tight end in the draft. I also wonder what moves they'll make to get more draft picks. Because this whole time I've been saying, they've only got 5 picks. They only have 5 picks. Gun to my head, I think they're going to have more than 5 picks come April.
Do they have any comp picks coming in?
No.
No?
This is it.
Damn.
So I think they'll find a way to get more picks. If that's a Courtland Sutton or a Garrett Bowles trade, it's not out of the question. It really isn't, right? Now, Bowles is a tough one to trade because, like we mentioned earlier, left tackle is a cornerstone piece. Your offensive line was awful last year. Trading away your best player on the offensive line probably isn't going to help make it any better. But if you can get a second for Bowles and just draft another tackle, replace him immediately, and you get potentially a better, if not just as good player for 18 or 15 times less, right? Whatever the rookie contract would be for a second rounder, George Payton's going to think long and hard about that. That's what I'll say about that. We have crossed over 2 minutes, have not received a super chat, which is a bummer because I wanted to keep talking with you guys, but the rules are at Chat Sports. If you're doing a live show, you got to keep the supers rolling in at the end if you want to keep moving. If not, studio space has to get relinquished and handed over. This was awesome. If you enjoyed today's live show, please go ahead and subscribe if you aren't already. Hit that thumbs up icon so we can show this video to more people. I'll read out some more, get out some more shout outs before we sign off. Retro reviews. I think the last 2 games of the season showed how much Hackett was the problem. I agree. Russ looked like a different QB, almost beat the Chiefs and then beat the Chargers to close out the season. Fair point. I don't disagree with that. Bobby says, I'm a Patriot fan, but your offensive line is your issue. They spent all that money on Wilson, now all the money to fix Wilson. They must fix their line to help the QB position. Yep, you're spot on. You're spot on, Bobby. JB says, maybe, but I'm not sure because I can't stand the QB carousel once again. If Russ played like crap, so he does need to improve. Yeah, I mean, going back to quarterback hell would suck. I don't want to go back to the Joe Flacco, Case Keenum days. You can't do it. But you also just can't continue to pay Russell Wilson to play like the way he did last year. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe. All that YouTube cliche stuff, you know the jargon. We'll sign off. We'll see you guys throughout the week with daily Broncos content because free agency, it's here, baby.